Well, hello there. Welcome to the Pruskop Podcast. My name is Megan Prusko. I'm a realtor here in Edmonton, Alberta, and I focus on helping people achieve their investment property goals with their portfolio. Today, we are talking to Andrew Galler. He used to be a residential mortgage broker. Now he is specializing in CMHC MLI Select mortgages as a lender. We talk about the comparison between residential and commercial loans. I hope you enjoy the conversation just as much as I did. Welcome, Andrew Galler, to the Pruskop Podcast. Ta-da! With these deals, the financing is going to be what makes or breaks the deal. So what is your track record with getting MLI Select applications turned into approved loans?
I haven't had any not go through at this point in time. I think a lot of that comes down to doing the extra due diligence up front.
And right now you're juggling one of my files as well. I'm helping a buyer buy 2.1 just about $1 million 8-unit here in Edmonton. We were speaking about MLI Select mortgages, but for people that are going to be watching that don't even know what that means, can you give me just a very general overview?
Yeah, so very high level, it's a program put through CMHC, and very high level, it enables you to potentially put down as low as 5%, somewhere between 5 and 15%, as well as getting it extended amortization. So anywhere from 40 to 50 years amortization.
Yeah, so you can basically leverage more on bigger projects.
And that's what they want.
Awesome.
That's what they want, because we're still struggling nationwide when it comes to inventories. And this is a way of encouraging people with money and capital that come off the sidelines.
What kind of properties are available to get financing through MLI Select?
5 units and above. Anything 4 and under still technically falls under the residential bucket. So if you got a 4-plex, you got to go residential.
I do want to speak to why specifically Edmonton, Alberta is an incredible place to use MLI Select to the fullest extent. As you said, having the affordability category as the path of least resistance. Here in Alberta, we make the highest salary out of all of Canada, and our homing prices are one of the lowest ones.
You're right. We do have really good, strong income. And as far as our rents and cost of living, it's still relatively very affordable compared to various other points of the country.
Because MLI Select for affordability, they don't look at if it's a 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed. Is it a basement, a main floor, an apartment? They just look at it as a unit. So here in Edmonton, I'm yet to see a 1-bed basement, new or old building that can charge $16.65 for rent anyway. So you aren't sacrificing any potential rent income to get underneath that. You're already maxing out what you can charge, and you're still under that cap. So you're not losing any money. You just automatically qualify.
Yeah, that's the advantage, where other places you're not able to do that. The numbers don't work as well. You don't want to pick on any other provinces, but it's just a case where in Alberta, it very much, and particularly in Edmonton, it very much falls into that.
Something else that makes CMHC MLI Select or just commercial mortgaging in general more attractive than residential is the lenders look at different categories to qualify you or different variables to qualify you. So if I am applying for a residential mortgage for an investment property, what is the most important thing that the lender is going to look at for me?
On the residential side, they look at obviously who you are first. Okay, what do you do for work, your credit score, your income, how long you've been working there. And then of course they look at the property. And then if it's an investment, they'll look at the amount of rent that you're bringing in, and they'll discount the rent in other ways. So we're versus the commercial end, the first thing I ask the question about do you have the 25%? Can we figure it out if you got the equity requirement, the loan amount? And then it's really quickly moving on to what's the building look like? Let's start running the cash flow numbers to see what kind of loan to value you could get.
When I meet potential clients that are interested in purchasing multifamily, the 3 questions I ask them outright: A, what is your experience? Same as what you said. If you have experience, that's better. If you don't, you can always just sub it out to a property manager. So it's not a make or break, but it'll definitely strengthen your case. The second thing I ask is, what is your net worth? Whatever your net worth is, times it by 4, and that is the maximum loan that you would be able to get, assuming all the numbers line up with that. And then the third thing I ask is, what money do you have liquid or available? Because the closing costs, I usually tell people to budget anywhere between 8 to 13%, because it'll be somewhere between 5 to 10% down. And then also budget roughly 3% for closing costs. That's to be safe. And if they go with you, who is a lender, not a broker, then they can save an additional 1%.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, those are all good points. And I think the further you get down, then you dial in even further. And I also like to get statements where I can. What the saying is what you can prove, and that's very important, because unlike residential, because we're going back and forth on comparison of this, is that in residential world, like when you're doing applications, I can list out 10 assets that I have. I just list it. I never submit it. Like as far as like actual documentation in this space, we 100% verify everything you say. So if you say to me, hey, I've got 100 grand and a TFSA at ATV, I'm getting a statement to verify that.
So financing through CMHC MLI Select, do you feel like it is a beginner friendly program?
I think my current 4 deals in Edmonton, they're all first time investors.
Wow.
Generally speaking, in the real estate terms, they are not seasoned veterans. So this program is available for those folks. The hope is that you get the experience from this particular property and that you move on and do other ones.
What do you see typically as the turning point for investors that are already in residential, but they want to make the switch to MLI Select?
I think part of what it is, you just hear it in the news so much that it's almost become trendy.
So when you're speaking to a first-time applicant, what is a shock transitioning from residential loans to commercial?
The paperwork is a big shock for them. Like the amount, some of them are okay with it. Some are, what can we not do? And I'm like, no, everything on that list is relevant. Like I can't not have it. The time frames are longer. That's something that people really go, we're not gonna wrap this up in 2 weeks. And I'm like, nope, no, that's not how that works in this space. And the other thing is, yeah, the cost, you're right. There's legal, it is more expensive. The appraisal can run anywhere from 25 to $3,500.
And then you mentioned the financing also takes longer. So as of right now, how long does it take for CMHC financing?
I'd say like 8 to 10 weeks.
So timeline for financing in residential is right around 10 business days. It can be done in 7, like maybe even shorter if someone like really has the pressure on.
Yep.
But in CMHC, as you said, 10 to 12 weeks. Sellers always want to close as quick as possible. And they are not very favorable to allowing a 10 to 12 week pending period for the buyer to secure CMHC MLI Select funding. So what can buyers do to appease the sellers so that they can get the property, but still get CMHC MLI Select funding?
So there's being prepared is half of it. I think if the more we can have them ready with their documents up front and have everything ready to go, it really makes a big difference, because it's from the moment you sign that paperwork, as we've been doing this week, the clock is ticking right away, and it ticks louder the longer it goes. But in some cases, if you don't have everything they want, they'll just send it back to you and you go right back into the queue again. And that's 4 or 5 months just out the window. Not to get too technical with products, Peak Hill, we do have a product called bridge financing. It's very much the same way that residential bridge financing works, where you can, if you're looking obviously doing the MLI, we would underwrite it that way. It's an open product right into CMHC. So that's something they can do that can speed up the timeline. And then as soon as it's ready to go with CMHC, we'll just transfer them over with no penalty, obviously, to do so, because that's the whole point of the program.
So let's say my net worth isn't an issue. I'm big ball and rich. If I have $250K liquid or available, burning a hole in my pocket, I want to buy a property. What is the maximum amount I could purchase on the residential side as a rental versus MLI Select?
So residential, you'd be looking at about 1.25 million. And just we're thinking of how do you pull the number out of the air? That's just 20% down. And residential, that's going to be the requirement if you're buying an investment property. Obviously, the MLI Select program, the purchase price would be about 5 million. So the dramatic difference between the two. Bang for your buck. I don't know any much better than a 4 times multiplier. That's pretty good.
You mentioned that one of the longest parts of the process of applying through CMHC is getting the client documents put together. Yep. What documents should people be prepared to provide you?
So the big thing, the documents up front, is the verification of their net worth seems to be the biggest challenge for a lot of folks. If you're buying a brand new building with a brand new corp, having your articles of incorporation, all the pages together in one spot, And if you've got in your taxes, we need 3 years. Normally, and I know in residential, you can get away with 1 or 2. In this space, it's 3. So you need your 23, 22, and 21 T1s, NOAs. Even if you're employed, you still want to see them.
I think that's something that a lot of people overlook as well in commercial is they figure it's more of a nameless, faceless game. But even though a corporation's a separate entity, a corporation alone isn't going to be running or managing this property. It's going to be human beings.
Yep.
So what human beings are the lenders trusting with millions of dollars?
Yep.
That's an important thing to know.
One of the first things I asked for is a biography of the borrowers, which sounds really weird. Like just write me a paragraph about your experience in general real estate. One of the other things I don't think, particularly first time investors don't realize, we actually do an annual review with you every year.
What?
I
didn't know that.
Yeah, we want to know how the building's doing, or how are the numbers looking, and we do check in on this stuff to see how things are going. That's very standard for commercial lending, whether that be a retail plaza, apartment building, warehousing. Like they all get annual reviews, because at the end of the day, as a lender, things can change dramatically.
What kind of buildings off the bat will qualify just on first glance?
A lot of these new builds, I think we mentioned earlier, get qualified for this. It's just because the fact you don't require to have as many for affordable, for designation. Like 2 basement suites out of 8, it's nothing.
Would an $860,000 8-unit rundown apartment, 1960 build, be a good candidate for MLI Select?
Look, $100,000 deal, like purchase price in this space, is pretty small in the grand scheme of things. Now, as far as its ability to qualify, I'm sure it could qualify if the numbers work.
Do you think I could get it for 5% down?
Potentially, yeah, but you'd have to have more of the units affordable, right? Because it's going to be an existing building. So you're probably going to have 7 of those 8 units to be affordable. So I think if you can work your numbers and understand that if you can make a cash flow and it still qualifies and you're good with that, then absolutely. In the cases where I'm seeing the strategy around that one that I've typically seen is where you buy something like that, you put down 25%, we do a bridge, you go in with cash, do the renovations you want, release it back up, and then we go to CMHC with the increased rents, and then you'll get the higher loan to value because you've done the work. I think I just caution, because we HGTV and all those guys, and I'm not knocking the work they do, but they romanticize, just do all these wonderful renovations and you'll make top dollar. You got to come up with that money. You got to be able to carry the cost. You got to be able to do a lot of logistics. And I just think first time investors, I think it's a big ask.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful strategy in order to burr an apartment building. That's super impressive. That's a lot of work, and it can be profitable, but that's what I used to do. I used to be in a renovation company that would renovate entire apartment buildings, and it took a long time. Yeah. And yeah, one of the buildings we did $60K per door, and it was an 18 unit. It's just so complicated. Why not make it easy on yourself from the beginning? And then once you gain confidence, bite more off, then bite more off. And then you can start chasing the spread.
If you got that expertise, 100%. But a lot of those people that have those expertise, they got battle scars. They've gone through it. They've had some fails or some things, but they've learned. So at the end of the day, I think you should get a premium for your rent just because you get a brand new property. People are walking in the door going, look, I got brand new carpet smell. The kitchens are new. There's some advantages to that for sure. I think
that is a great note on that, because when you have a newer building, you are able to charge more. Just naturally, tenants are going to migrate to have a nicer, newer property to call their home. And then typically you'll also see more stable tenants because you'll have a higher rent amount. It's all depending on your strategy, but it's more than just the purchase price. Do you want to plug yourself a little bit? How can people reach you?
You can give me a call. I just have my cell phone number. So it's 403-771-0134. Or you can reach me an email. It's Andrew Galler, all one word, at pklcapital.com.
Perfect. And does it matter if there is an investor that's from Ontario and you are here in Alberta?
No, doing a lot of that. I joked the other day that I see more 905, 416, and what is it, 778 numbers on my phone than I do 403 or 780 numbers.
Thank you so much, Andrew. This was a great conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me, Megan. Really appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye for now.
Thank you again to Andrew Galler for joining me as the guest on this episode. He was the perfect person to talk about residential versus MLI Select financing. Peace out.